All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the stream. Hope you all had a good weekend. Sorry for being a little bit late this morning, but it's okay. Only a little bit late, and we'll see if we can go longer to make up for that. But yeah, I hope you all had a good weekend. So I have a goal for the next 10 days, or I guess 9 days now, which is to create 3 new items, 3 new cards, whatever you want to call them, per day for 10 days, just to fill out, in particular, a lot of the enemy item options. But also, you know, we're going to want to add some items for the player as well. But I've already done 4 of them, so I could probably show you what those are in just a second. I mean, they're linked right there. They're displayed right there, so it's fine. But anyway, before I get into everything that we're going to be doing today, I want to remind you all that Alchemortis is available for wishlisting. So if you're interested in a dark fantasy roguelite auto battler where you can use alchemy to create your own builds and synergies, definitely check it out. Give it a wishlist. I would appreciate that. You can also support the game on Patreon. If you subscribe to the top tier here for at least 1 month, I will send you an Alchemortis Steam key when the game launches. And your name will be listed in the in-game Alchemortis credits. So that's a great way to support me. I'm entirely self-funded, so every little bit helps. And you can also purchase my Udemy courses. This is a great way to support me as well, but it's also a great way to learn how to build games in the Godot engine. So all of those things are linked below. Check those out if you're interested. I appreciate all the support. And let's get into it. Hello, Malicious Rabbit. Welcome back. Good to see you. Edo Makes Games, good to see you. Welcome. Ninja Link, good morning. Got a question for you right out of the gate. Yeah, shoot. What is the question? Celestial Beagle, good afternoon to you. Welcome. Swabby Games Live, thanks for the raid. I appreciate that. Good afternoon to you. Enjoy your dinner. Thanks again for that. Appreciate that. Always love the time zone differences in the chat. Yeah. WBJ Pen, welcome. Mabs Games, hello, welcome back. All right, so let's show you guys everything that I did. There's only one piece of art here that I'm not really liking. It's the chainmail. The chainmail's a little bit hard to draw, but let me just go ahead and put those all in. So let's see, we've got chainmail, dove, inquisitor. I think you guys are gonna like the stag. So those are the 4 cards that I did yesterday, 4 items that I did yesterday. And we can take a look at those. Do you think a game can succeed without making their own assets? I know that there are some games that have succeeded with asset packs, but just curious what you think as someone who does art. Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. You know, I don't think... I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by use assets. I mean, there's a lot of games that are successful that use assets. It's just a question of like, to what extent and to what degree are they using them? If you look at basically like any small teams 3D game that they put on Steam, they're probably using assets somewhere, with, you know, and I guess we're probably excluding sound effects from this because I don't think most people are making their own sound effects, but yeah, I think most indie 3D games that come out, if they're made by, you know, I think, you know, if they're made by, I don't want to use the word serious devs, but if they're made by developers who have a goal of like getting the game done as quickly as possible so that it can be sold on Steam, I think there's going to be assets in the vast majority of them. At least that's my impression from what I know. I've been talking to other game developers just like kind of in the same sphere as me, and some of them are making 3D games, and it's like it's exceedingly common for them to use assets, even if they're not using assets for like the, I don't know what you would call it, like the main like centerpieces of their game. Like they might make some props from scratch or some characters from scratch, but you know, various background elements and whatnot will be assets that have been retextured or modified in some way. So I don't think a game's success really depends on whether it uses assets or not. If you make it look like an asset flip, then yeah, that's gonna probably not work. But if you do it with like good taste and like visual sense and take effort to make sure that the art direction is all consistent, then I don't think you'll have a problem. The issue with the asset packs is that you need a good one that is large enough to support an entire project if you don't want to do any art. Right. Need to make it yourself. Well, I think with 3D what you could do often is like you could get an asset from a different asset pack that might have like a good polygon count, or just generally be sculpted in a way that kind of matches your style, but maybe the texture is way off, and so you might need to go in and retexture it, right? That happens too. Some people use higher res, higher poly assets and then just like crunch them down if their game's more low poly. So there's ways to do it. But it's certainly more difficult with 2D. Like if you're trying to use a 2D asset pack, it's like good luck finding 2 different 2D asset packs that are in a similar enough style. Phasmophobia still uses a ton of Unity Store assets, although they are replacing them slowly. Gotcha. Hello, V. Welcome. Thanks for your opinion. I had to ask because someone roasted me recently for using an asset pack, and I was like, bruh. Yeah, I think everyone who's the overwhelming majority of people who are serious about game development, whether you're talking about professionals or indies or just like hobbyists, they're going to be using assets in some shape or form. Like, do you think AAA studios make all their stuff from scratch? They don't. They buy sound effects just like you and me, and they reuse assets from previous games. Yeah, so it's like, at the end of the day, you're trying to create a game. You're not trying to do the toiling manual work of creating a chair model for the 50 millionth time, right? So, yeah. Anyway. What are we doing? So, I need to come up, or I need to decide upon some more items to make here on this stream, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see if I'm feeling artsy today. Oh, I was going to show you the cards, right? Here we go. All right, so here's the new cards that I added. So again, the chainmail, I'm not so sure about the chainmail there, but maybe I'll redo it. But we've got a dove, we've got chainmail, we've got the Inquisitor, and we've got a stag. So those are the 4 new items that I added. They're all enemy faction items. So those were added yesterday, and we'll just continue on with that today. I like how the stag turned out, though. I think that's pretty good. All right, anyway. Let's figure out what to draw here. Yeah, players aren't going to recognize this as an asset pack. That's true a lot of times. Hello, Wooius. Welcome. Good to see you. Alrighty, what should we do? And of the players who are game devs, maybe a quarter will notice the assets. Yeah. Leviathan would be a fun one to do, but that would have to be a huge card, obviously. Spectacles. I kind of like this one. I'm just going to reorder this. Oh, a mushroom person. A mushroom person would be fun. I was playing D&D and I was like, wait, a Myconid kind of style thing would be kind of cool, but I can't use the term Myconid because that's, you know, a D&D thing. So, but yeah, a mushroom person would be cool. Let's see. I don't have so many good ideas in here. A golem is a good idea. Plague Doctor, Goat Grinder. What else? Headless Horseman. Carnivorous Plant. That might be a fun one. Enemy bear, elite or boss. Oh, a bear would be a good one. I'll put that in the enemy column there. You're welcome, Courier Games. You look fresh out of the shower. Smelling nice is always nice. Yes, I got out of the shower maybe an hour ago, so it takes a while for my hair to dry. And I don't use a hairdryer because who can be bothered with that, right? What card size and faction are we looking for? Anything. We're just looking for anything. What I'm mostly concerned about right now, actually, is sort of like filling out the ability landscape a little bit. Because there are definitely situations where there's like gaps or there's too much of something. Like I think the enemy right now has too much healing. So I kind of want to fill out the library of enemy cards with at least not healing items. And actually what I did is, I'll just take a screenshot because unfortunately Claude is showing too much information here, but so I found another use for Claude, which is really cool. So I gave Claude, so I have this tool, oops. How do I pan this thing? Oh, control, okay. So I gave Claude a list of all of my abilities in the game, which I have a script to do that. So I have a script that generates this ability descriptions.txt. And this is just all of the abilities in the game separated by new line. So every single ability, now I think there's some duplication here. I mean, there's like deal 6 damage, deal 15 damage. So those aren't really different abilities, but I think it's just iterating over all the cards in the game and just pulling all their abilities and printing their abilities to this text file. So what I did with Claude is I sent it this text file and I said, hey, can you identify of the enemy abilities specifically, like what's missing and where there are synergy gaps and everything. And then Claude comes out and says, okay, well, enemies have almost no fire application is what this one says, right? So it's like, okay, well, maybe fire would be a good thing to add. Enemies have few paralysis abilities. So you know what I did is I saw these two things and I was like, oh, well, I'll just make the Inquisitor, and the Inquisitor will apply fire and paralysis. There you go. Kill two birds with one stone. So anyway, this is a very nice use of Claude because it's not exactly telling me what to do. It's more so just pointing out gaps that, you know, I would have to build out a spreadsheet otherwise to track or just kind of like judge. So I think that's pretty cool. Try Myconid. I suggested an artifact item combo style in the Discord this morning. That could be interesting. Let's take a look at that. I didn't have time to look at the Discord. I was up late last night, which is also why the stream is late. Reduce the cooldown of allied items by the amount of charges. Okay, interesting. So we've got two artifact ideas. We got a lot of artifact ideas. Oh my goodness. Electromite Nest. Upon acquisition, gain 1 Electromite Swarm. Every 3 seconds, this artifact gains 1 Electromite. Deal true damage equal to your Electromites. Reduce the cooldown of adjacent items by 1 per second per Electromite. Oh, interesting. Oh, artifact item idea. Oh, I see. So that's an item that goes with the lightning rod. That is a very interesting item, though. Item design. I'm gonna, maybe if you can expand upon that easier, because I'm not exactly sure. So I'm reading, upon acquisition, gain 1 Electromite Swarm. Is that the artifact? And then it sounds like Electromite Swarm is the card, right? There's the item. So the item is the swarm, but then you have like this counter, which is like how many Electromites you have. Right? Am I reading that right? Oh, mycoid, like humanoid, but that's just mycoid, so it's not exactly the same. IDK, it sounded different in my head. Yeah, I mean, we could come up with a name for it. Like, I could just come up with my, like, it doesn't need to be, you know, it could just be like a more medieval style thing. I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's an artifact that grants an item like Spider Nest, but it's a one-time thing. The nest is artifact and the swarm is the item. Oh, I see. Okay. So the idea of an artifact that you just gives you a card upon acquisition, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, I like that. Definitely take a look at that for sure. Something like that. Now, the thing is, I don't know what an Electromite is. And at this point, I'm too afraid to... Okay, I can't talk, whatever. I'm trying to do the meme. I don't know what an Electromite is, and at this point, I'm too afraid to ask. There you go. I did it. Finally got it out. Anyway. Let's just do... I don't know, let's just knock something easy out here. Spectacles. We'll just do this real quick. I had this idea the other day. Now, there's one... Ah, shoot. There's one weird thing happening here. Okay. Card creation tool. Sometimes this is not putting the art in place, and I don't know why that is. How many 2x1 cards do I have? Player card dimensions count. 2x1, I have 12. That's fine. We'll do 2x1 spectacles. Create that. So one thing that's kind of annoying is that it looks like... So last night it wasn't filling in this art field here for some reason, but now it seems to be doing it, so maybe that was just a bug. The Electromite was just the name of the charge. Gotcha. Sounded a bit more interesting. Gotcha, yeah. I might not use that terminology exactly, but I think that could be cool. So let me, yeah, maybe we could do that on this stream. Every 3 seconds, this artifact gains 1 Electromite. So that's an interesting technical problem. I don't currently have a way for cards to know or to take an action. So wait, is it the case that the artifact... Oh, I see. The artifact is the one gaining the charges, and then... The artifact is the one gaining the charges, and then the Electromite Swarm is the one that executes it. So here's a question, though. What happens if I sell the Electromite Swarm? Does my artifact just become useless? And is that okay? Like, is it okay for the player to be able to make an artifact useless by selling the item that the artifact grants? Hello, Fortune Sort. I very appreciate your code review videos. I've already implemented most of the recommendations, but is it normal to put some features in the main root node world and then call them in different places like World UI Update Money? Or better to use only global signals? Well, I mean, the thing about global signals, like a global signal bus or a global signal manager, is that it's still a node that exists in the tree that you access in a global fashion. So, like, it doesn't really make a whole difference, like, semantically, whether you put that in, like, a global signal manager or if you just put that stuff in the world. And it doesn't even matter necessarily if you use a signal. Now, I think I still would encourage you to use a signal. So even if you're putting that, if you're using your world as your like singleton from which you're connecting and doing things, I would still recommend using a signal. And the reason why is because you may want to listen for money updates in places that are other than the UI, right? So I don't know what kind of game you're making, but for example, in a roguelike, it would be very common to have some kind of item or modifier that is dependent on how much money you have, right? And so one way you could accomplish that is you could just emit a global signal that says money changed or whatever. And then any system that needs to know about the money value changing can listen to that. The UI would be an obvious one, right? But you could also have gameplay logic that is tied into the amount of money or that is tied into money changes, right? So maybe a simpler example is maybe you want to add 1 extra gold every time you gain gold. And so an easy way to do that would just be to hook into that signal and just add an extra gold whenever the money changes, right? So yeah, I would still probably encourage you to use signals. The problem with just going directly to the UI and calling update money is that, you know, what if you need that value somewhere else, right? What if you need to listen for that value somewhere else? So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a huge problem, but that's just my opinion. Did I make these too big? Yeah, let's make those a little bit smaller. These spectacles are going to be kind of big. Oh, and I'm drawing on the wrong layer. Oh man, this is not going to be a good day. I'm already falling apart. It's Monday, I guess. I'll just blame it on Monday. I'm trying to do like little, kind of like Harry Potter glasses, kind of, you know what I mean? That looks kind of good. This one may need to move down a little bit. I like this card. This card's gonna be... I think that's probably fine, actually. Okay, we have spectacles. And then we just got to highlight this up. This will be a very easy one. Well, maybe I shouldn't jinx myself. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. Okay, and then we'll just kind of try to highlight it reasonably well. And then for this one, I think we'll make these darker here. Yeah. That seems good to me. And then this one, Make this dark as well, or darker. Okay, there's our spectacles, and then we just put a couple of white highlights. There we go. We got a pair of spectacles. I think that looks pretty good, but I may actually... Do I want to add little purples here? Does that look all right? The biggest problem I have with this palette is like this purple just doesn't... for some reason, it just doesn't look good to me when it's like adjacent to the blue. I've been trying to ignore that, but something about that just kind of bothers me. I don't know why. I may... Let's not... Well... See, the problem is it looks too flat. If I just do... you know what? That's probably fine. It looks too flat if I just use the solid blue, but then it looks kind of... That's fine. It's fine. Okay, there we go. There's our spectacles. Not bad. Alrighty. I think that's a perfect fine decision to sell the item. Can also be alchemized to move the abilities around a bit like an eyeball. Yeah, that sounds good. Oh, we got a lot of chats. I'm not gonna, to save time, I'm not gonna read all the chats, but I'll try to pick out the ones that are good for me to read. I can really relate to the size of that mug. You're welcome, Fortune Sort. You also want to avoid having your scripts directly go into other scripts, otherwise turn into spaghetti real quick. Yeah, the general... I mean, yeah, you... Like, the way that I like to structure my games is that if I don't have to have a direct reference or store a reference to something, I prefer to take that approach. Now, obviously, that can't be a hard and fast rule because there are just certain situations where storing a reference to something or getting a reference to something is preferable. But to the extent that I can make it all signal driven, that's what I try to do anyway. And then if I do need a direct reference to something, I try to only directly reference something that is pretty much guaranteed to exist. Because the problem when you're storing a bunch of node references and stuff is that nodes are, I don't know, I guess you could say that they are inherently transient in a way. Like, nodes are meant to be like put on and removed from the scene tree. And so, like, during the course of a normal game's execution, you can't really be guaranteed that any particular node is going to be in the tree at any given time. And that's why, you know, you have to structure your scenes correctly, right? So that's why it's not a good idea ever to, like, free a node within a scene, right? Like, your scenes are your logical groupings of nodes that have to exist together. And then when you need to dynamically add and remove things, those are different scenes, right? So you kind of want to structure your entire game around this idea of, like, being very intentional with the nodes that are going to remain in the tree and the nodes that are going to disappear from the tree and all that stuff. So anyway, if I do need a reference to something, that's when I prefer to use like a singleton or something, or some kind of like manager node, which is basically like, okay, this manager node is always going to exist in the context of a run, so it's always safe for me to get it, right? You just want to be very intentional with it, I guess is what I'm saying. You don't want to just be passing node references around and like getting things by reference for things that could or could not be in the scene tree. That makes sense? Global sound effect player. Yeah, global scripts are fine. You just have to, like I said, manage them properly. Alternatively, the 20 damage charge removal could be placed on the artifact so that it's always useful, but the item makes it more useful. I keep putting off a global sound effect player. Highlight should for sure be lighter blue and not white. I think I got it, right? Hello, Emerson. Welcome back. I also have it take a float. Oh yeah, float argument, which affects the pitch scale. I've been using the audio stream randomizer for that, even if I have a single sound effect. Even if I have a single sound effect, I will use the audio stream randomizer. That's just a resource. I don't know where to find this. Yeah, so like this one has 10 sound effects, so maybe that's not a good example, but the audio stream randomizer is a resource that is also a stream, I think. Yeah, it's an audio stream. So this is a resource that implements audio stream, I guess. But this will randomize the pitch for you. So every time you play it, it does that automatically. I did create a custom audio stream player. And what this one does is basically when I create this one, it actually just sets up an audio stream randomizer with default properties for me. And then it also sets up, it up to use the sound effects bus immediately. So when I'm adding sound effects to the game, I just add custom audio stream player and it configures everything the way that I want it to be by default. But then I also have this streams array here that it's exported. And basically what happens is it listens for changes in that stream array, and then it sets the audio stream randomizer stream element to the matching element, because it's a little bit annoying when you want to add streams to your audio stream randomizer. You have to open up the randomizer, you have to go to streams, and then this is paged here. So like if you have 10 sound effects, you can't just like, so I have light armor walking. So if I have all these sound effects that I want to use for my walk effect, right? I can't just drag these over into the streams property of the audio stream randomizer, because these are all individual elements. So what I did is I just made an export property here where I can drag all these elements onto the export property. And then what that will do is that will set up the inner audio randomizer with all of those sound effects for me. So definitely recommend creating those kind of editor tools for yourself. I think they're very nice. Am I using a mouse or tablet? I'm using a mouse. Consistently amazed at your ability to just pop out great looking art like that. Thank you. Looks like eyeballs, kind of. Oh, I see. You would use this highlight for that. I think it's fine. We'll see. Could add a darker teal cyan color if the purple doesn't always work. I can't. I have to stick with the 8 color palette. Oh, hello, Clickertail. I must have missed your message. I think I did say. Oh, I did miss your message. That's all right. Looks great to me. Thank you. Where do you put scenes that are instantiated into the tree? Child of the root directly, or do you have some container nodes or something? I mean, it depends on the context. It depends. Again, it's going to largely depend on like the context of your game. So like in Gunforged, I had like an entities root where all of the entities in the game, so all of the characters, all the enemies and stuff would be placed. And so whenever I needed to spawn an enemy, it would get placed at the entities root, right? But then you've got, you know, if you've got a UI element where there's like a dynamic list of items or something, then, you know, you're going to want to put that in the proper container. So it's really up to the context of the game, really, where the best place for it is. I still love the fact that I'm the only one here that uses Turbo Warp to make games. Like I have Pokemon Tall Grass in my game as a tile that has some logic to it. I group those under a tall grass layer. Nice. Do you use RPG Maker in the past? I have not, no. Would a player HUD like in World of Warcraft be a singleton because it needs to be updated with information of so many different things? Quest, entity, stats? No, I think it would be a mistake to make your UI the singleton and then update the UI everywhere in your game logic. I think that's a great way to create a spaghetti mess. That's a situation where you would either have one or more kind of managers that store the game logic and that expose an API for you to modify the game logic, and then they would emit signals based on their state changes, which the UI could then listen to. And you could break, so like for a complex UI, you don't need to have a single manager to drive all of that. You can break it up. So for example, in Alka Mortis, which is a very UI heavy game, obviously, the UI that drives the board and the card dragging, so like it's, let me see if I can explain this. So all of these UI elements, right? But the UI element that handles this board is isolated to itself. And the UI element that handles showing the tooltips for artifacts is a different, like a manager, right? And then the UI element that shows your currencies, that's driven by a currency manager, right? So I don't have like a giant UI class that stores every bit of information related to the UI. The UI looks holistic, but it's actually responding to signals in very modular and like narrowly scoped ways. So like this bit of the UI only knows about currency changes, and it's isolated specifically to whatever subtree actually contains these things. So this subtree could or could not exist in the UI. Like I could just delete this and the rest of the game would work fine. You just wouldn't be able to see your currency, right? Same with this board. I could delete this board and all the logic driving this board and the game would work. You just wouldn't have an inventory to work with, right? So it's like everything is very narrowly scoped to its narrow realm of responsibility. And I even do that with my managers. So like the currency manager is separate from the artifact manager, is separate from the board manager, is separate from the card manager. And then all these systems just like work together automatically for the most part. Like there's very, very few places where those managers actually need to get information from other managers. So yeah, I mean, I think, but yeah, for complex UIs, you can break it up more granularly, but I definitely wouldn't use your UI as like, you don't want all the game logic in your code to be calling update methods on the UI like throughout dozens of places in the code base. You kind of want to get all of your data flowing through like central managers because that just makes it a lot easier to work with. One seat, many managers, stats manager, health manager, etc. Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah, you like the stag, Emerson? Anyway, let's do the spectacles. Man, at this rate, we're gonna get one card done per hour. It's okay. It's all right. All right, so dimensions, this is 2 by 1. All right, so we need ideas for what the spectacles could do. How many ritual items do we have? 33 relic. So we can make these a relic and alchemical, maybe? No, maybe not alchemical. Relic. So we might not call these spectacles. Alchemist's spectacles. Maybe we'll give it a fancier name. Like when I write the flavor text, I may just call it, like maybe I'll make it a named item and then it's more appropriately a relic. But that's okay. So let's do 4-second turn cooldown. Exclude from loot table, no. Loot table wait 10, that's fine. So we'll figure out the flavor text later. But what we do need to do is we need to come up with an ability for this. So let's figure out what to do here. Appreciate the breakdown. I'm currently in one of your courses and look forward to more. Awesome. Thank you, Denver. Appreciate that. Do you think you can simplify the pixel art process by resizing a high-res IRL image using a cartoon filter so colors are not messy? Limit the color palette, stroke the image out, and that's it? So I think that can work. I mean, basically anything can work as an art style as long as you're consistent. So I think the challenge there would be making that process of taking a high-res image and crunching it down and quantizing it to get the colors limited to a palette and then outlining it, etc. I think that that's going to be like the big question of whether that's going to work or not is just going to depend on like how consistent you can make that. Because I think, for example, like when you're doing pixel art, the lighting is a big deal, right? You have to be consistent with your lighting. Make sure that the shadows and highlights are roughly like sort of in the same spots. You don't want everything in the game to be lit differently, right? And I think that may be one of the main challenges if you're just getting high resolution images, is that the shadows and the highlights may be in different spots because the light is in a different spot when this one image was taken, and then you grab a different image and it's lit totally differently. So even if you quantize it, they're still going to appear to be shaded differently. So I think that may be the biggest issue, which may just be resolved by just carefully choosing your source images and making sure that they're roughly lit the same. But yeah, I think, I think anything is possible with your art style as long as it's consistent, right? So I would say it doesn't hurt to try it. I wouldn't expect it to be like the best looking game in the world, but you can make a game just fine as long as you're consistent with the art style. I naturally assume they'd increase the crit chance of minions to the left of them. There you go, let's do it. How hard is it to completely master Godot and make a large game with it? Well, I don't know about... So I've been using Godot for many years now, since 2017, and I would say that I haven't completely mastered Godot, largely because I haven't done a lot of the more esoteric things in the engine. I also haven't done a whole lot with 3D. So completely mastering it, it depends on what your definition of completely. If you're talking about like a level of proficiency where you can just go and make things and you don't have very many issues, I think that takes, it takes a couple years of consistent use of the engine to get to that point. It's like anything else, right? Any other complex tool that you would look at, say, how long does it take to become proficient with this? And then making a large game, making games is hard just generally. Making large games is especially hard. And I don't think it's, even if you're very proficient with the engine and you know what you're doing, that's not going to make the process of making a large game that much easier. It's just going to be easier in the sense of like, how to accomplish the things that you want to do, but you're still going to have all the same challenges that come with making a large game as a solo developer, which is, scope management and just the raw amount of work you have to do. Passive increased cooldown of adjacent alchemical cards. The second ability is projectile at adjacent alchemical items echo. Interesting. I mean, I think increasing the crit chance of minions to the left is a good one. This is also a good one. Echo projection is always something that's very... I'm going to do a modification of that one. So I'm going to do Jack's idea, increase the crit chance of minions to the left. And then I'm going to do a different one, which is I'm just going to project echo to one alchemical item to the right. I think I'll do that. Godot is excellent for 2D, but is the same for 3D? Or is Unity Unreal still on the top? I mean, I think it largely depends on like what your goals with 3D are. If you're trying to make a game with high visual fidelity, my impression is that Unity and Unreal are better for that. Unity and Unreal are also better in the sense that they have a lot of assets that you can pull in to those engines directly. There's a lot more resources available for those engines when it comes to 3D compared to Godot, like just learning resources and whatnot. And I wouldn't be surprised if, they're just optimized better too. I mean, everyone complains about Unreal optimization and Unity optimization, but my impression of Godot 3D is that it's kind of a difficult thing to optimize as well. Now, this is me just talking based on like just seeing what other people have done with Godot 3D. I don't have any experience with 3D myself, so take that with a grain of salt. But if I was going to make a serious 3D project that had any sort of like graphical fidelity, I would probably look into Unity or Unreal first before Godot. But I don't have any plans to make such a game. I think if I do make a 3D game, it's just going to be very like basic, pixel art textures, low poly models, and I think Godot would be just fine for that. But yeah, I don't know anything about 3D really, so don't take my word as truth. I'm a backend dev, mostly go Java, Python, C# in that order. Would you recommend GDScript or C#? Yeah, my recommendation for people who already know C# is like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you already know C#, then use whatever language you feel comfortable with, like in Godot. Because the most important thing is like, you know, when we're using a game engine, ultimately what we're trying to do is make a game, right? So it's like, why not do the things that you're already proficient in, you know, instead of adding like learning curves to yourself. That said, you know, if you're already a programmer, GDScript is very easy to pick up. So it's really just like a personal preference thing. If you like C#, then use C#. Just be aware that the one downside to it is that you can't do web builds for Godot if you're using C#, but otherwise you're okay. So I think it's a personal choice. I like GDScript. I do. I think GDScript is really fun to write and to read. And whenever I do a game jam, I almost always do it in GDScript just because it's easier, and also because I can do a web build. So yeah, I really do like GDScript, and I'm excited to see where it goes in the next couple of years with respect to gaining all these new features. Because if it becomes more C# like in the fact that, you know, abstract classes are in a good spot, and there's like a trait or interface system or whatever, something that just allows me to structure the game better, I may start making my games in GDScript eventually. But anyway. Why many don't stick to the Godot's GDScript language? I don't know if that's true. I think the majority of Godot developers are using GDScript. Even like the bigger 3D games that you think of, or the bigger releases on Steam, a lot of them use GDScript. So is C++ always the optimal programming language? I don't know. But again, it's like, what do you mean by optimal, right? Because it's like there's one train of thought, which is that like, okay, the most performance oriented, like which language can I get the best performance out of? But when I hear the word optimal, I'm always thinking like the tools that are going to get me to the end state of having finished the game the fastest and the easiest. That's what I'm thinking about optimal. So my definition of optimal is not how many milliseconds can I shave off of a frame or how many microseconds can I shave off of a frame. My definition of optimal is like, how can I get to this desired point as easily as possible and introduce the fewest issues into the game as possible, right? And if that means like I'm going to use 50 more megabytes of RAM than I otherwise would need to, or whatever, then I'm going to do that, right? So there's a sense in which like it's wasteful, but then there's another sense in which it's like I'm not really concerned about optimally using resources. I'm concerned about optimally finishing the game. So yeah. Only tried GD for now. Godot seems pretty simple and seems well integrated. Yeah, it is well integrated for sure. Can't do web builds yet. Yes, well, we've been waiting for web builds for a while. Hello, iHusky. And hello, Chris. Welcome back. You got to do web builds for game jams 100%. Yeah. Did you try how GDScript and C# work with tools like Copilot? They work fine, yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I've had the AI coding assistants like write Godot shaders, and they do fine. I don't notice any problems with them really. Professional senior character artist in the industry, I can let you know that Godot is a breath of fresh air. Yeah, I've used UE extensively in Unity as well, currently developing in Godot. Awesome. Well, there you go. Somebody with actual 3D experience who says Godot is great. So there you go. Okay, so we need to do our crit chance. Can I not put... Oh, I might need to do something different here. Do I not have... I don't have anything that projects the critical chance increase onto other things. Well, we might have to make a new self-critical chance modification. Base card critical chance modifier magnitude divided by 100F. Is it really that simple? Okay. Execution context, state, get query result. Just trying to figure out, I need to create a new ability in here that can actually put critical chance on other items, because I somehow don't have that yet. I'm just trying to decide how to do that. Do I have a turn cooldown? Yeah, I think this is what I need to do. So I need to pass in a query target provider. Okay, so let's do new file, critical chance modification. Did I not do this in the right spot? Dang it. We need to move this into scenes, no, scripts, data, ability. Okay. Critical chance modification. Game.data.ability, public class, critical chance modification, int base value, I ability magnitude, and then we also need to pass in a query target provider. Query target provider. Okay, so let's do for each var target in query target provider, get cached targets. Target.critical chance modifier plus equals magnitude divided by 100F. So that works. Okay. So now we can do, let's do the query target provider first. So query target provider is equal to new query target provider. Query options, dot query directions, what is going on here, is equal to board inventory component dot query directions dot left. Let's do left. Yeah, let's just do left. Query target provider dot query options dot tag filter is equal to card tag dot minion. Okay, and then the critical chance increase is new critical chance modification. I'm actually going to flip these arguments around. Query target provider, and then we're going to increase the critical chance by 20, I guess. And maybe we'll do... Yeah, that's fine. Let's do this. Const int base critical chance var current critical chance. Okay, and let's do current critical chance increase there. Okay, so then we need to put the query target provider in here. Oh, I'm in the wrong spot. That needs to be moved up. Okay. Query target provider, critical chance increase, key. Critical chance increase, scaling function. Scalar is equal to ability scalars dot make additive scalar. Let's do 5. Current critical chance increase is equal to scalar base critical chance increase tier. And then we do current critical chance increase dot set. No. Critical chance increase dot set magnitude. All right. Description template parameters func. And this would be, let's do this. Card spectacles critical chance increase. Okay. All right. Hello, Alex. Welcome. Good to see you. How to improve 2D games performance like camera culling for physics or other things I don't know. I would not worry about performance until you have performance issues. Are you having performance issues right now? Because Godot does a lot of performance stuff for you already. Like, if I'm not mistaken, for any visible node that leaves the renderable area, I think those are automatically culled now. I'm not sure, but I think that's true. Godot has optimizations already for dealing with collisions, so you don't necessarily need to worry about that. But yeah, I think if you have performance issues, it's largely going to come down to your implementation. I don't think there's like a silver bullet way of like, do this and make it faster. Like, you just have to kind of identify the systems that are slow, figure out why they're slow, and then fix it. So I don't know if there's really a good way of saying, yeah, do this and you'll avoid performance issues. How long did it take to create Gunforge? That was in development in some form for like 3 years, but it was really like the last maybe like 8 months of development that the bulk of the effort went into it. So I would say maybe a year and a half total in that 3-year period. Hello, Kelso. Welcome back. Hello, Omat City. How long have you been working on this project? Since March of 2025. Do you use C# over GDScript because you prefer the syntax? Yes, I prefer C# just for the you know, all the nice things, link and interfaces, abstract classes, all that good stuff. So yeah, it's personal preference though. What school did you finish? Computer science. I have a degree in game simulation programming, which is basically a game dev degree, but it was basically useless. So my degree is like in a box somewhere in my house. It's like I forget most days that I even have a bachelor's degree. Why do most developers prefer Visual Studio over other IDEs like Cursor or the IDE built into the game engine? Well, Godot's built-in IDE is not nearly as feature-rich as a standalone IDE. Like, even something as simple as like find and replace feels like it's straight out of the 90s. It's not like super good. And of course, you know, one of the things about Godot now that is really apparent is that there's no integration for like these like AI powered autocomplete, right? Which is really a huge time saver. Like, I don't actually think I could ever go back to using an IDE that doesn't at least have like the tab prediction autocomplete, because, you know, nine times out of 10, that tab prediction autocomplete is showing me exactly the thing that I was going to type. And so rather than spending 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds typing it, I can just hit tab and boom, it's right there. It's such a time saver. So, but yeah, those are a couple of the reasons why you would use a built-in IDE or a standalone IDE rather than the built-in one. So yeah, interesting to see how differently things are done in C#. Yeah. Hello, iMagic I am. Hello, Mel's. Generally new to this channel, by the way. Awesome. Well, welcome. Good to see you. My first major performance issue was generating graphs with the CPU. Oh, there you go. Yeah. I think you just kind of have to, with performance, like, you know, I'm not a performance expert, but I just kind of like build my games in the way that's easy and sensible. And then when an issue comes up, that's when I'll spend the time to try to fix that issue. And that works for me, you know? All right, description template. So the description template is what? We're going to say the critical chance of query target provider dot to query string template. Oh, you know what I need to do? No, this is fine, actually. By, I think I can do this. 0%. And then here, this can just be current critical chance increase there. So this is part of the translation system. So basically, this description template will be output to the translation file with these string format placeholders. I don't know what these are called. String format placeholders in the string. And then when the translation string is evaluated, this string will be translated first. And then these description template parameters this function will be called and will return all of the values that need to be placed into the string. So yes, card spectacles, critical chance increase. So I think this one is good. And then let's do, so I actually created an editor script for generating my translations, which just runs another instance of Godot in headless mode to generate the translations, but that's okay. So we'll do translation generator that will run. We could see here. So now I've got that ability in card spectacles, critical chance increase, and then I've also got the card name added to the translation file here. And then we can see increases the critical chance of allied minion items to the left by 0%. And this would be replaced, so whatever the current percentage is. Okay, so now we can go into the game and we can see if that's at least working. And then we'll add the last ability onto the spectacles, and then we'll do another one. Spectacles, Alchemist Spectacles. Passive, increases the critical chance of allied minions to the left by 20%. This is a minion, so this should be 35%. So see how it's 15% crit here? I move it to the left, it's 35% now. Very cool. Alrighty then. So we'll fill this out with that last ability, which will be projecting echo to a right adjacent alchemical item. I do like this stag. I like how that turned out. The Inquisitor is not bad either. Anyway. So initial work on spectacles. So we'll add that second ability here. What's your stance on how to name things during development? From what I can see, you type your names in full. Are you talking about like the method names, variable names, stuff like that? So my approach to writing code is to, like, my number one guiding principle is that the code should be readable without comments, basically. So like I prioritize, in most cases, I'm not saying I'm perfect at this. There are certainly places in the code base here which are messy, but my my North Star goal is to make it so that my code is the source of truth for both the logic and the meaning, right? So that means that not that just that the logic should be correct for what I'm trying to accomplish, but that I should be able to discern what the code is trying to do just by reading the names of the functions and the variables. So the way that that's accomplished in a lot of cases is by just being verbose with your names, right? So that's basically how I approach it. Basically, my goal is if I feel the need to use a comment somewhere, I've done something wrong, is the way I look at it. Like, my code should be clear enough in the vast majority of cases that a comment would be redundant, right? What's this game's process? What was the starting point? And when do you estimate you'll finish it? So March 2025, I started it after I played the Bazaar a little bit, and I was like, oh, this would be fun as a single player roguelike auto battler. Kind of like I saw Backpack Battles was pretty popular and all that stuff. There's another one, He Is Coming, another popular auto battler. So I was like, well, I can make a game in that genre, and make it, dark fantasy, necromancer, alchemy themed. And just kind of trying to take elements of a lot of games in that genre. But the process is, there's not really much of a process, honestly. It's just like, try to implement these features that I want the game to have, see how they feel, and then iterate and tweak over and over and over again. The people who have played the Alchemortis playtests so far, which is a lot of people in this chat right now, those people could tell you like the rate of change and how much has changed from the first playtest to the most recent one. It's just mostly just trying to get the game into a spot where people, they want to play again. Like, they want to sink hours into it. Like, I want Alchemortis to be the kind of game where it's like, you start playing it in the evening and then it's already like 3 a.m., right? I want that. And that, so far, like, several people have said that, like, wow, I just dumped 6 hours into this game or whatever. And that's even in its rough state. So the process of making the game is kind of like serving that end goal, which is like, how do I get everything just working really well together? And a lot of that is just an iterative process. It's like, I do some experimentation, I play test it myself, I give it to other people to play test, and we just kind of evaluate how it's working. 30%. Yeah, I would say there's about 30% remaining, maybe. Because the thing is, like, all the hard systems are done, basically. And so now it's just a matter of tweaking and adding content. And adding content is relatively easy. Because it's not like super technically complex. Like, the spectacle ability, it's a little bit to type out. But I already have the frameworks in place for, like, defining all these abilities and stuff. So adding new items, adding new abilities, all that stuff is relatively easy. Adding new artifacts is relatively easy. Adding new difficulty levels, adding new characters, like, all those things are easy. The hard part was getting all these systems set up to make all that stuff easy. And all of that is basically done. Like, I'm probably going to need to make changes here and there to support, like, new ability types and stuff, but for the most part, like, all the hard stuff in the game is done. And so now it's just a matter of, like, polishing everything up, getting it feeling really good, tweaking the gameplay systems, all that stuff. I think comments can be helpful, but they should not explain what the code does, but rather why it does it in this way, and if there are some consequences which cannot be documented with the code. Yeah, I mean, there are certainly places where comments are fine, for sure. Hello, High Law. Welcome. Good to see you again. Bad Basque. I played the demo one afternoon with plans to play Valheim later with friends and accidentally played Alchemortis until I needed to sleep. Oh, that makes me feel so good, honestly. Like, I love seeing those kinds of comments because it means that there's something, like, I did something right with the game, and I've never gotten that kind of comment on any of my other games, right? Like, no one ever played Gunforged and said, wow, I wasted away 6 hours on this game, Which means that there's probably a problem, like, if, yeah, anyway, thank you for sharing that. It makes me feel very good. So now you fill out content, yes. I think one of the harder parts of game development is creating an interesting game that gets people interested in purchasing and hooked when they play. Yeah, I would say with Alchemortis, like, the lesson that the theme that you're selling somebody is actually really important too. Like I never really paid too much attention to like what is the theme of the game or what is like the fantasy of the game. I didn't think it was that important. I was like, well, if the game is just good, like from a gameplay perspective, then, you know, people will play it anyway. But I don't think that's true anymore. I think that the visual presentation and the theme that you're selling to people is a huge part. Oops. Is a huge part of the game. So like with Gunforged, for instance, right? The main character in Gunforged is an old guy. And I was like, oh, it's kind of fun. You know, games almost never have you play as an old crazy dude, so I'm gonna do something different. And then I received this comment multiple times, people saying, I don't like the main character. Why would I want to play as an old guy? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, it's just a twin stick shooter where you just like destroy a bunch of monsters. Like, what does it matter who you play as? But I got that comment probably 3 or 4 times from different people. Like, why is your character an old man? You should change it. I don't want to play as that guy. I was like, oh. So that's when it kind of started to click to me, like, actually, there's a reason why games almost never have you play as an old man as the character. Because people don't like it, I guess. I don't know why that is, but people don't like it. And so, like, the fantasy that you're selling somebody actually does matter, even if you think it doesn't. So I think one of the big things about Alchemortis is, like, I think the theme is very eye-catching and the visual style is very eye-catching, like this dark fantasy realm of alchemists and beasts and the Inquisition, but it's all got this like dark color palette. That is a big attractor of people to the game, and I think it actually has a big factor in people continuing to play the game too. So, and I kind of stumbled into that. I wasn't setting off to like, okay, I want to make a game that has the goal of like being very eye-catching and like curiosity-inducing. I just kind of thought it would be cool to do a dark fantasy alchemy necromancer game. And before I even had any playtests, people would come into the streams and say, I love this game's style. Like, what is this game about? And it's like, that was just from the visuals of what they were seeing me doing on screen. So anyway, all that is a long-winded way of saying, I think the theme that you're selling to people actually makes a huge difference. And if you can create a theme that's very distinct, it doesn't have to be original. I'm not going to use the word original, but something that's like very distinct, eye-catching. You're selling the player something that's kind of like intriguing or curiosity-inducing. That's definitely something I'm going to consider for my future games, is like, what is the fantasy that I can give to the player? Even if it's just like a stupid like auto battler game, right? Even if it's just like a small little game where it's not really an RPG, like the fantasy that you're selling is still important, it seems. So anyway, my fantasy is playing as a 3,000-year-old stinky necromancer. It's okay as an option. I remember that old guy from Happy Wheels is a fun character to play. People just don't like feeling forced to do a thing. Yeah. Being able to make a game that people actually find fun is very rewarding. I'm very happy that Alchemy Dash got number 2 in fun out of 190 games, even though visuals weren't very appealing. Yeah, congratulations with that, by the way. Yeah, that's a great accomplishment. I've done a school project 2D pixel game that has a dense forest foliage with bare minimum gameplay. Is it still considered a game? I don't know. I will leave that to the game philosophers to decide. I mean, personally, I don't really understand like the walking simulator thing, honestly. But I've also been the kind of person that has never been intrigued by game stories. Like, I'm the kind of person where you put a game in front of me and like I automatically skip all cutscenes and like skip through the dialogue. Like, I don't care about any of that stuff. So if you're gonna put a game in front of me that's like, oh, you're just walking around and like discovering the story, I'm like, I'm not interested at all. Whether that's a game or not, I mean, I don't think it matters. Like, we don't need to be super pedantic about what constitutes a game and not. But for me, I would not consider that much of a game, no. All right, I'm gonna take a quick 3-minute break, and when I come back, we'll fill out the last ability here, and then we'll see what we can do afterward. Okay, I'm back. Let's get this last ability in place. Let me catch up on the chat here. King is watching. Did I play this game? I did. I have not played that game, no. But I'm making a game that's more of an endurance test than an actual game since it does get hard very quickly. Very nice. Consider Firewatch a game, but the way to tie in the sounds is what makes it feel like a game. Yeah. So if you just give someone a basic player controller, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there needs, like, you know, a game definitely has to have elements of, like, there's a goal to accomplish. Even if the goal is, like, just exploration, and it's never, like, let's say that you have an exploration game and it's like a sandbox exploration game. You don't even need to explicitly tell the player that the goal is to explore, but the game's systems need to induce that behavior in the player, right? So, like, if you want to make an exploration game, there has to be a reason to explore, right? Which means that the world has to be built around serving that reason, which means that you need to give players like little tiny discoveries and secrets, and there has to be some incentive to explore the world if you're doing an exploration game, right? So, like, a game still has to have either implicit or explicit goals, and then the game has to serve, the game systems have to serve those goals, right? Or work toward that end. But yeah, I definitely think if you just have a character controller in like a 3D environment that otherwise doesn't have anything in it, that's probably not a game. It's just like a tech demo. So yeah, if you had to pick, what's your favorite aspect of making game? Brainstorming, making art, making music, coding? Probably the coding. Yeah, I mean, I come from a programming background. I was employed as a software engineer for a number of years, and I don't know, coding has always felt like, it always come to me naturally, not in the sense of like I was a prodigy with it or anything, but in the sense of like I always enjoyed doing it even when it was difficult, you know what I mean? Like I'm the kind of person where like if I get stuck on a programming issue, I have like this monomaniacal focus on like figuring it out. Like I'll stay up way too late, bashing my head on the desk being like, why isn't this working? And that just comes very natural to me. I don't know why, like I'm not forcing myself to like go and like figure out this issue that I'm having. It's just like I want to solve it so badly that it like bothers me until I do. And I think that maybe that's just an aspect of my personality. But anyway, programming just like, it comes easy to me, not in the sense like, oh wow, it's so easy, I'm so smart, but it's easy for me to keep at it and keep working on a problem even when that problem is difficult, if that makes sense. Like I don't need to force myself to sit down and work through the difficult parts. It's just like something that I just naturally want to solve. So that's it's the most fun for me, I guess, because it's the easiest thing to get myself to do is to do programming, basically. Now, tying a narrative and reason for the player to walk around and say it's, yeah, it is. Hello, Snupbill. Thank you for the IDR 10,000. Appreciate that. Thank you. With the message Yummers. Welcome back. Always very generous of you. Thank you, Snupbill. Good to see you. The King is watching. Something like decide between producing resources, balancing both. You need events more in your game. Maybe. My biological brain doesn't have enough RAM to be there and think about programming solutions naturally. Hello, Kinyaz. Welcome back. Good to see you. All right, I forgot I have a meeting in 20 minutes, so let's get this last ability added to this. So var composed is equal to new composed ability. We're going to project echo. Actually, I don't need to do this. I can do ability builder, project ability, translation key, ability, and configure. So the translation key, we're going to do card, spectacles, project echo. And then we're going to do new echo. Oh, that has to be a base composed ability. And then configure. Oops, I did that completely wrong. Okay. Let's see. Does this configure anything for me? No. Okay. Query options dot query directions is equal to board inventory component dot query directions. We're going to do right adjacent. query target provider dot query options dot limit is equal to 1. I think that's right. Let's see. Oh, I need to add, right, I need to add this here. Oh. Okay, build this again. Do you like math calculus? Not particularly. I don't remember anything from the calculus classes that I took in college. I do want to sit down someday in the future and like go through like some kind of online calculus course or something and linear algebra course, because I think, I mean, it would be nice to have like a good understanding of those things. I think that would be extremely useful, but I just haven't got around to it, and maybe never will, you know? We have all kinds of ideas in our head that we would like to do, and then one day we die and we haven't accomplished them, so we'll see. Do you develop so that you add everything in the code, or do you do part of it in the Godot IDE for the 2D stuff? Yeah, I use the IDE to the greatest extent possible, because I mean that's what the IDE or the editor is for, right? Of course, you could construct all of your scenes and stuff with code, but it's just a lot easier to do that with the UI. So yeah, I let the engine do as much of the work for me as possible, which I think is, you know, I think that's how you're generally supposed to do it. Okay, so here we go. Projects to one allied item. This translation generator also supports the plurals too, which is nice. This needs to be alchemical though. Do you maintain a list of items, artifacts, abilities you are interested in that comes from the community? I just throw it into the list. I'm not tracking them as community specific, but I just throw them into these lists here as they come up. So I will not be able to track back the suggestions back to the person who originally suggested them, unfortunately, but a lot of times too, I'm not taking the suggestions directly. I mean, I do sometimes do that, but a lot of times like your suggestions give me ideas for abilities or items that are similar in behavior and style. Why is that not using right adjacent? Do I not have right adjacent in my code? I might need to extend this. Let's look up left adjacent. Shoot. If query directions dot has flag, query directions dot right adjacent, prefix equals right adjacent. Let's see if that works. Build that. Hello, Vexelmine? FXLmine? New here, been loving your code review series. I was chatting on YouTube, but I don't think my messages were showing up. Oh, maybe not. Let me see. Yeah, I don't see anything in the YouTube chat. Maybe you're... Yeah, maybe you... I don't know. YouTube is weird for people sometimes, but glad to see you on Twitch. Welcome. Also, just in case you didn't try, disabling the inline suggestions and making them triggerable may make it less distracting. Oh, no, it's fine, yeah. It's fine. I read in the docs adding in code is slower because the script gets passed to the script executor, which is slower than running directly in Engine C++, which is what happens when you use the scenes. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't worry too much about performance until it's a problem. And that's why I had to, you know, if you saw my video about the rendering server, you know, I came across a big performance issue and then I had to solve it. But that was just a very narrow fix for that situation, right? Is that Obsidian? Yes, it is Obsidian. Yes, it is. Okay, what am I doing? The one thing I don't like about this translation stuff is it adds an extra step to my workflow whenever I add abilities or stuff. Like I have to run that translation generator every time. And it didn't work anyway. Why didn't that work? Right adjacent. Oh, wait a minute. Because I added it in the wrong spot. This toQuery string is not used anywhere, so let's get rid of this. Wow, it took the whole stream just to do this one item. That's okay, though. Okay, translation. Projects to one right adjacent allied alchemical item. Cool. So now we can actually go into the game and see if that works. Yeah, I agree. Fix performance only when there's an actual problem. Can you please suggest some apps and or learning materials for someone who is art illiterate? It depends on what kind of art you want to do. If you're doing pixel art, there's all kinds of good resources on YouTube. Adam C. Eunice, Pixel Pete, Brandon Greer or something. Greer. I also have a pixel art video on this channel, how to get good at pixel art with no skill, which you can watch if you're interested. Is a phylactery an alchemical item? It is. All right, let's see what happens. Cool. All right. We can call the spectacles good now. Oh, I need to do the flavor text, which I will not do on stream, but... All right, well, we're going to call this current count 5. So again, I have a goal of doing at least 3 new items per day for 10 days. I started yesterday, so I added 3 new items to the game yesterday. Actually, I added 4 new items to the game yesterday, so I beat my goal. But we have 1 new item for today, so I need to, before today is over, add at least 2 more items. And the goal is here to just get the number of items filled out. And so if I do 3 items per day for 10 days, that's 30 new items. And then I can continue that pattern, right? So like after 30 days, for example, I'll have almost 100 new items in the game. So doing it 3 at a time, 3 every day, should cause the item count in the game to go up pretty substantially, pretty quickly. So that's the goal right now, but we'll go ahead and add spectacles. So that's good. It's all right. Your stream is giving me a break from learning about these grid maps. Nice. Learning how to use, how to generate a cave of pillars, assigning those pillars to regions, storing the positions of them. Too much math for me. Yeah, I'll take a look at the pixel art channel. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But yeah, YouTube is my go-to place for doing the art tutorial stuff because it's, you know, it's like the perfect medium for it. It's like you you get to see visually like how they're drawing things, and they're talking about the decisions that they're making as they do them. And even I just like even watching like pixel art showcase videos where they're not explicit tutorials, but you can watch somebody who's like a master at pixel art. You can watch how they're shading things and how they're like blocking things out and how they refine things over time. You can get a kind of like a feel for how the pros do stuff, which is, I think, super useful. One other thing that I wanted to show you guys, which is pretty cool. So I'm trying to make my code the source of truth. Code and resources the source of truth for translations. So I actually introduced this translation string attribute. And this is pretty cool. What this allows me to do is anywhere where I have code where like a string, an English string is inside of the code, I can just define that here with this translation string attribute. And I can pass in the English string and then store in the constant what the key is of that string, of that translation string. So now what I can do is I can just bake all of the language into my code and resources. And what happens is the translation file becomes an output artifact of the code's build process, essentially, rather than the translation file being the source of truth itself. Because what I don't want to do, and this is just like personal preference, I'm not saying you can't do it this way, but what I don't want to do is have this giant file here, which already has almost 2,500 lines in it, and have to go in here and find the thing that I'm looking for and edit it and like add new lines with the proper format and everything. So this entire file, or 95% of this entire file, is automatically generated from the resources and from the code. And so now what I could do with the translation string here is I could just, anytime I need a string to be translated, just slap that on there and we're good to go. So I think that's pretty cool. I like how the translation system is working out. And again, since it's like it's an artifact of the build process, it's like the translation file is always going to reflect the source of truth, which is the code base, right? Which is nice. So anyway, I like it. Thank you. Just curious how you separated debug build versus the build people would play. I use debug checks. So I have this game debug class here. And basically, this is all of my like debug settings, which are available in my project settings here. Game debug, here's all my project settings. But all of these are gated behind checking if we're on a debug build or not. So is generate test map enabled, right? So this is actually just part of the code that generates the map. But this will always evaluate to false in a release build, because the first check in all of these methods is, are we in a debug build? And is debug build is just checking OS is debug build. So all of these things will be default values, or, you know, like false or whatever, if we're not on a debug build. Otherwise, it will read the value from the project setting. So that's how I'm managing it. So yeah, so basically when I publish a release build, it doesn't matter what the configuration is in here. All these things are ignored for release builds, which is good. Have you decided how to differentiate the cooldown logic wording I pointed out last week, the whole incense versus snailcat cooldown reduction thing? Isn't the passive tag the thing that does it now? Let me take a look. I do have to hop off here in a couple minutes, but what about duplicates? What about commonly used translations? Duplicates are handled because it's when the generator builds, it just uses the dictionary under the hood. So if another translation key already exists, it will just, I mean, it technically does a replacement, but it's at the end of the day, it's handled. So there are no duplicate keys because it's a dictionary during the generation process. Commonly used translations, again, that's all from the code base. So like my damage ability, right? Anytime where I add damage, anytime where I'm adding damage to an item, I call abilitybuilder.damage, and this just, there's only two possible keys for this ability for translation purposes. If we're targeting self, it's ability damage self, and if we're targeting the enemy, it's ability damage. Now, one thing I should note is that I'm still retaining like template string placeholders in there. So if I look at ability damage self, it says deal 0 damage to self. So I can just replace this value in whatever the string ends up being translated to, right? So what a translator would go in and do is basically this for French, right? Is they would modify the language, but they would keep the number placeholder, or they would put that in the proper spot. So like, let's say in French, it needed to go over here. They could just move it there, right? But the phrasing is the same no matter no matter who's dealing the damage ability, right? It's the same phrasing. So there's only one key for ability damage self, and then whatever happens to damage self, we'll just use this key here. So that's it. Both say reduces cooldown, but one is a reduce the items cooldown, and the other is skipping turns instead of reducing. Oh, I see. Let's see. Add item, snail cat. Cooldown is reduced by 0.6 seconds if this item is on the left edge of the board. Yeah, so I don't know. Is the passive tag not clear enough? Because this says reduces, but it's not passive, right? So that's an active one. And this says cooldown is reduced by 0.6 seconds. Maybe there's some clearer things I can do there, but I think the passive tag there helps a lot. But I'm not sure. That's pretty nice, yeah. Yeah, I like it. So anyway, maybe when Alchemortis is released, I can do some deep dive videos in the code of Alchemortis and explain some of the systems more broadly, in case that would be helpful for anyone. But number one focus is getting Alchemortis finished this year. Anyway, I do have to hop off. I've got 2 minutes until my meeting, so we're going to speed run this closer here. Alchemortis is available for wishlisting. It's a dark fantasy roguelite auto battler where you can use alchemy to create your own builds and synergies. The Steam page is linked below, so if you would wishlist that, I would appreciate it. You can also support me on Patreon, like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow on Twitch, all that good stuff. The Discord link is also below. You can also sign up for my email list at firebelly.com. Like I said, just every way you can support me is linked below. Any way you want to support, however small or large, is very much appreciated. And we'll see if I may do another stream today if we're just going to be doing content. I think that would be fun. So keep an eye on the Discord for live stream announcements, and I will talk to you all later. All right, bye-bye.